Hi, welcome back to the workshop for episode 2 of the new project. And if you missed the first one, what we're building is this, and it's going to be my version of a Rickenbacker 620-12. So it's going to be a 620-12 string. And in this episode, we're going to be concentrating on getting the central section laminated up. So it's a multi-laminate neck. And what I've got in mind is a central section of maple, which is going to be about 6mm. And then there'll be some veneers either side of that, so I'm thinking white, black, white on each side, so that's another 6 layers. Then we've got 2 thin strips of Purple Heart, and then my plan at the moment is to put 2 outer layers of maple on. I might put some more veneer in, I'm not really sure just yet, but we'll see once we start getting some material cut. So to move forward, we need to get some measurements off this drawing, get some materials out, get it marked out, get it to the bandsaw. And if we look at this side elevation, I've done a little bit of measuring, I've done a little bit of marking out, and at its thickest point, which is there, and probably right at the tip of the headstock here, it's actually about 43mm. Now I've measured the bit of maple that I've got, and that is actually 45mm, so I've got a couple of mil extra to play with, which is amazing. Exactly what we wanted. So what I can do is I can cut this profile out of the thickness of the board that I've got, which is great because it just saves me quite a lot of messing around. My Purple Heart, however, is thinner, so I'm going to have to cut a 40mm strip from that and then resaw that to the thickness that I want. But end of the day, not a massive deal. I'm sure we can do that. So realistically, I need to do some measuring up, I need to do some arithmetic and figure out how much material I'm going to need to get what I want. Now, if I measure right at the very end at its thickest point, it's about 52mm. And I've worked out that all of the center laminations will come to about 22mm, which leaves me 30mm that I'm going to need for the bigger bits of maple. So what I'm thinking is if I cut 2 bits at 20mm, that will leave me plenty to then cut the profile that I need out of. Okay, so there's all the laminates cut. The bandsaw was struggling a little bit to cut through this maple, but we got there in the end. And then all I've done is use some super glue and masking tape to fasten them down onto these quite stout pieces of chipboard, just to keep everything going through the planer as kind of straight as possible and thickness them down. Now, I did talk about putting some veneers in here just to spice things up a little bit, but actually, looking at that, I think it looks quite nice as it is, and I'm not sure that it would look any better with black veneers in there. So I think I'm just going to leave that as it is. But before I do that, I just need to check that I've got more than 52mm of material. So there's actually plenty of material to work with there. Now, one of the other things I was considering was actually tapering these down to one end, so that the laminations in the neck would kind of taper as the neck tapers. And I think that would be quite a cool look. However, as I will explain in this next shot, I think in this instance it might not be. And the reason for this is the bloody headstock again. If you look at this headstock, it is quite oblong. It's very parallel in terms of its overall shape. And I just think if we've got lines kind of converging at an angle through there, it's just going to look completely out of place. So I'm not going to go with that. I'm going to go with the parallel lines that we've already got, which I think is definitely going to look better. The other thing that I've got is when I cut this material, I actually marked 2 arrows on it, which were both pointing in the same direction on the big board. And the reason for that is, to make this as stable as possible, what I'm going to do is actually take this one and flip it over. And what that will do is, any kind of movement that might be present in this piece will be counteracted by the same kind of movement in this piece. And in theory, that should keep everything absolutely bob on straight. So with all that done, the only thing that remains to do is to find a couple of bits of dowel, clamp all these together in the position we want them, drill a couple of holes through on each end for the dowels to fit in so that they can locate everything when we do the glue up. However, I don't actually have any dowel, so I'm going to have to make some. Okay, so there's my little dowels cut. I've actually trimmed these down so they're shorter than the width of the timber I'm gluing up, just so that they're under the surface when I put my cauls on, so it's not going to interfere with those. Trusty Titebond, little Rockler silicone wood glue brush, and pretty much all of my clamps. So I'm just going to, as quickly as I can, get glue onto these and get them together and clamped up before the glue goes off. Now, thankfully, it's quite chilly tonight, so the glue isn't going to go off particularly quickly. And I think on this one, that's a good thing. So without further ado, we'll get cracking. Okay, so that's everything together. Seems to have gone together really nicely. There's plenty of squeeze out everywhere, which is always a pretty good indication that you've got a good glue up. So this needs to be set aside now. I'll probably leave this overnight in the clamps, maybe even a little bit longer. We'll see how we go. I quite often get asked when I'm doing these builds kind of what the overall cost is and how long they take, etc. And in all honesty, I never really kind of keep track of it. I sometimes have a little bit of a budget that I work to, but generally it's just I buy stuff as I go along and quite often forget how much things cost along the way. But I thought for this build, it'd be interesting just to keep a tally of things, see how much money I'm spending and how long it's actually taking to do the job. So in the spirit of that, I'll start with how much money I've spent so far, and It's not very much, to be honest. I've bought a truss rod, which was £17, and I spent some money on wood a little while ago at the timber suppliers I use, which, if anyone's interested, is Duffield Timber up near Ripon in Yorkshire. I spent about £125, but I got quite a bit of wood that's going to be for more than just this project. So I think in total for this project, I've spent £50 on wood. So far the running total is £67. In terms of hours, I put probably 2 hours into making the templates, and so far on the neck blank, I've spent 4 hours. So that gives us a total of 6 hours so far. So as I say, this one's going to sit in clamps now overnight until the glue's dried. So that seems like a really good place to leave this video. So I'll be back in a few days' time with the next episode. Until then, smash that like button if you've enjoyed this, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.